They painted all of the posts white. They they painted the edges of steps white and things like that, so that I could see things like steps and poles and things like that, so I didn't bump into them. And welcome back to Mel's Blind Life, the YouTube channel all about blindness. I'm here for a fantastic video, a little bit of a story time this week about orientation and mobility, just to break the sort of important videos up a little bit. And I'm going to tell the story of how, why, and when I begun orientation and mobility training. So orientation and mobility, or O&M as it's most commonly referred to, is the practice of teaching someone who is blind or has low vision how to orientate themselves to an environment and how to use effective and safe skills such as long cane, guide dogs, scanning, and all of those sorts of things to be mobile in that environment. So it's basically orientation and mobility is things like, can include things like crossing roads, catching public transport, finding your way around, say, a park, and things like that. Just about everything that you do when you're out in the community, and I guess as well when you're even moving around your house, is orientation and mobility, because, I mean, you have to be oriented to your house. So that is what orientation and mobility is. So where do people learn orientation and mobility, or O&M? There are several different places. So for me, here in Australia, I am a client of Guide Dogs Victoria. I will link them down in the description down below. They offer several different services for people who are blind or have low vision. They obviously, as their name says, offer guide dogs, which both of my dogs have been from Guide Dogs Victoria. I've had my first dog, Darcy, who worked for 6 years, was from them, and my current dog and second dog, Penny, she also is from Guide Dogs Victoria, and I've had her for almost 8 months now. So that is one service that they offer. They also offer occupational therapy. They have an orthoptist. They have all sorts of other services for blind and vision impaired people. And something else that they offer is orientation and mobility. So they have a fantastic O&M team there. They have orientation and mobility specialists who specialize in children. So they have a specialized children's department. They have a specialized adult department, and they also have a specialized department for people who are blind and have low vision because of an acquired brain injury. So they have a specialist group of O&M professionals who specifically work for people with acquired brain injury. So you can get orientation and mobility services from a dog guide organisation 9 times out of 10. Also, somewhere like Vision Australia, maybe the National Federation for the Blind in America, or I can't remember what the United Kingdom, is it Royal Society for the Blind or something like that in the United Kingdom. They would be good places to maybe ask how to access orientation and mobility services in your state. So that is where you get orientation and mobility services from. And how do you get them? Well, basically, you would apply to access their services from the time of vision loss diagnosis, or I think for me, I was probably registered to access their services right from a very early age. So for those of you who have just clicked on this video and have never watched any of my videos in the past, I have a genetic condition called rod cone dystrophy. So I have had low vision and known that I'm going to lose all of my vision ever since I was like a few months old. So the story about how and when I started learning my O&M skills. So, my goodness, it's really hard to pick a specific time when you learn these skills, because it's something that you learn really from the moment before you start walking. You know, you learn how to move around and assess your environment and everything right from the beginning. But yeah, it can be done informally and formally as well. So I probably started my formal orientation and mobility training when I was about 4 or 5 years old, when I moved from the kindergarten to my primary school. Was probably, we think, when I started my formal orientation and mobility training. Before that, I had obviously learned to walk and all of those other things. I did not need a cane at that stage. I didn't have significant enough vision loss, in my parents' opinion, that I required a long cane, and I do agree with them. I wasn't that blind to need a cane at that young age. So I was taught some skills right from the beginning from my mum and dad, who are both low vision as well. And so when we used to walk to kindergarten, obviously we didn't have a car. We used to walk to kindergarten. We used to walk around the street in town and things like that. They were obviously telling me things and showing me things right from an age that I was old enough to understand what was going on. So I probably started, as I said, my formal orientation and mobility training when I was about 4 or 5 years old and moved to my primary school. My primary school were really, really good with my vision loss situation. I did go to a mainstream school full-time, and from the age of, I think, about 7 or 8, I was involved in a program called Support Skills, which I will do a video about at a later date, during which I went to the School for the Blind twice a term as well. But I was enrolled full-time in my local government primary school, nothing too fancy. Was just a normal country primary school, really. But they were really good to me because they painted all of the posts white. Excuse me? What did you say? Sorry, my dog's making noise. They painted all of the posts white. They painted the edges of steps white and things like that, so that I could see things like steps and poles and things like that, so I didn't bump into them, because that hurts. Believe me, it does. Yes, it does, Penny. Yes, I was too young to have a guide dog then. Yes, can you please go away? Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Help. Excuse me. Are you done? Pen, I need to record this video. They can't see my face right now. Get off. So as I said, one of the things that I was involved in was my parents enrolled me in different programs for children who were blind or had low vision. And the other one of those things I touched on the support skills program, but the other one of those things was guide dog camps through Guide Dogs Victoria. And these camps, no, were not about dogs. These camps were for children aged, I think the youngest you could be was 7 years to 12. And then the senior camps were like for 13 to 18, 19-year-olds. And these camps were run by the Children's Mobility Team at Guide Dogs Victoria. And they were 3 nights, twice a year in the school holidays, where 14 kids would go down to the Guide Dogs school at Guide Dogs Victoria. We would stay in Arnold Cook House, which I will link a tour down below of Arnold Cook House. And we would stay at Arnold Cook House or ACH for 3 nights. And we would learn some of our O&M skills. And that was what the camps were all about. We did do a tiny bit of occupational therapy. I do remember every camp, the last day of camp, us kids made lunch. Most often times it was a barbecue for the parents to come on the last day of camp. But we also did have our main focus as orientation and mobility. So we were learning things about road crossings and public transport and all sorts of different things. And each camp had different themes. I remember one camp, the theme was planes, trains, and automobiles. So one day of the camp, we went to Melbourne Airport. We had a partnership with an airline, and we did a thing with the airline where we did a mock check-in and went on a mock flight and talked about orientation and mobility during, that kind of traveling in that kind of environment. Then another day we got the train to Ballarat, which is like a nice country town not very far out of Melbourne, and we walked around the lake at Ballarat and then came back to Guide Dogs. And another day in that camp we went to, I think it was like a car, I'm not sure, it might have been a car sales place or something like that, and we had a look at all these different cars and learned about manufacturing of cars. I can't remember, I was really young. So we did, we had different themes, and the camp was modeled around those different themes. Another camp that we did was focusing just on road crossings, a lot of different themes. So on those camps was how we learned our orientation and mobility skills, our cane skills, everything like that. And the activities that we did were focused on those themes and learning our skills during those activities. So then when I was in grade 4, maybe 5, so when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I had one-on-one sessions with the orientation and mobility specialist. She came to my primary school and she helped me learn how to walk from school to meet my dad sort of halfway home before a major road crossing that was too dangerous for a 9 or 10-year-old kid to cross. So that was sort of my first individual orientation mobility lessons that I can recall, was when I had the instructor come and help me learn how to walk from home to school. Obviously, I had been walking to school every day since I had begun school, because once again, we didn't have a car. So I knew the way, but the reason I think why the O&M instructor came in was to make sure that I was doing it safely and to give me any tips. And that was one of the things that my parents did, was they made sure that no matter how much they had taught me, they did always make sure that they had a O&M instructor, an occupational therapist, whatever, look over my skills and maybe be able to suggest a different way for me to do something, or something like that. So I think that was really good. So I continued with guide dog camps, and I think I was in grade 6, so I was probably about 11, maybe grade 5, when I started walking to and from school completely independently. Yeah, grade 5, I think. And then I kept doing guide dog camps, as I said. In year 6 and a bit of year 7, I think I did have the O&M instructor come and help me learn a little bit of the way around my new secondary college, because it was a lot more complex environment than the primary school. And then when I was about 13, everything started changing. So when I was 13, 14, something like that, was when I got my first white cane. I was on a January guide dog camp. I had been moved up to the senior program by then. So the camps were in the January and July school holidays. And one January camp, January 2007, I believe it was, maybe 2008, I was on the camp and I didn't feel confident with something. I think it was traveling at night. By then I was starting to have a lot of trouble with glare. I was actually starting to lose my vision a bit by then. And we were going on a night walk, and I was fine once the sun went down, but as the sun was setting, I had a lot of trouble seeing, a lot. And so I remember asking one of the orientation and mobility instructors whether I could try using a cane to see whether that helped me feel more confident and comfortable in that unknown environment that we were about to walk in at my worst time of day for seeing. So he agreed. He said, he took me and he measured me up for a cane, and he said, look, what we're going to do during this week is you're going to carry your cane around in your bag and only use it when I tell you. And so I think he was assessing what environments I needed it in, what environments I was better in, what environments I, wasn't good in, and things like that. So during that week, I practiced, I used the cane now and then, and it just seemed to get things happening in a more positive way, and it seemed to really help. I was able to walk. There's a photo of me somewhere that I'm not going to be able to put in this video, unfortunately, because there's another client in it. But there is a photo of me on the last day of camp that I can remember. We were walking in the city and I was using my cane, and I just looked really confident. I was walking with my head up again. I was able to walk faster, and I was just a lot more confident with my cane. So at the end of camp, I went to give the cane back to the instructor, and he's like, no, you keep it, use it in unfamiliar environments, and I'll square it with your mum. So my parents weren't entirely thrilled about this. I remember my mum didn't think that I was ready for a cane. I think that she felt that my vision, though it had started deteriorating, she didn't sort of think that it had deteriorated enough that I did need a cane. But I proved that it was a big help for me in unfamiliar places. And because we used to go on holidays a lot, that was when it was really helpful, was when we were in places that I didn't know. I was just able to walk a bit more confidently and more comfortably. So I kept using the cane in those places that I didn't know very well, and not using it at school very often, which was something that I learned pretty quickly not to do when I was in year 10. So when I was in year 10, I'm going to say about 2 years after I got my cane, 2.5 years maybe after I got my cane, I had an altercation with a veranda post at school. It hurt like blazes, and it was because I wasn't using my cane. I didn't see this post, and I walked into it and I cut just above my left eye, and it wasn't good. So I started using my cane at school all the time then, because I was like, well, I don't want to keep walking into poles. And I was falling downstairs as well a little bit. Like, I would fall, if there were like 2 or 3 stairs and I didn't see them, I would fall down them. So I stopped falling downstairs and walking into posts when I started using my cane at school, which was great. But I didn't really want to, because I was the only blind kid at my school. Anyway, that's a completely different story. And then after using my cane for a couple of years, 2.5 years maybe, I trained with Darcy. Double, Monsieur. I trained with Darcy, my first guide dog. Come here. They need to see you. There you are. Say hi. They're over there. Hi. Yes, good boy. So when I was 19, nearly 19, I was 18, I trained with my first guide dog, Darcy. And then, as you guys know who have been following me for a little while, I trained with Penny, my second guide dog, in 2019, last October. So that is really my orientation and mobility journey, and how and why and everything like that. I can tell the full story of how I got my cane and how I got Penny later in other videos. I will link down below the video that I did telling the story of how I got Darcy, and also telling the story of my test driver guide dog program, which was 12 months before I trained with Darcy. So I hope that you've enjoyed learning a little bit about what orientation mobility is and where to do it, and my personal journey with orientation and mobility. I feel I've gone on for way too long, so I'm very sorry about that, and I didn't even tell half the things I wanted to tell. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you've learned something, and if you're blind or have low vision and have recently begun your blind or low vision journey, all I can say to you is don't be fearful of ringing up the National Federation for the Blind, your guide dog organization in your state, whatever, and asking for orientation and mobility, because it is something that is really important to learn, and the earlier you learn it, the more confident and comfortable you'll be. And even if you just start with the basics, like getting your partner or care organization to learn how to give proper sighted guide, then you're making a progress. I will recommend that for someone who is recently on a blindness journey, I would highly recommend that you watch Matt from Blind to Billionaire. Matt has only been blind for a few years, and he was very reluctant to get orientation and mobility, and he started off with just having his instructor show his wife how to give correct sighted guide, and that really, really helped him. And now he's starting to learn to use his cane, and he's doing really well. So if you want a bit of inspiration from someone who's just, you know, sort of starting that journey, then go and check Matt out. But I will also try and help you as much as I can as well. So I hope that this video has helped, and I hope that you will subscribe to my channel. Click the bell notification to find out when I do more uploads. And also remember to like this video, share it with your friends and family. Leave a comment down below if you've got any questions or anything that you'd like to learn more about with orientation and my mobility. I will link my guide dog playlist down below as well. And I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.
Speech on. Close button. Instagram now. Stop recording video.